Hi, everyone. I am so happy that you are here for the Happy Numbers Back to School webinar. My name is Emily Levy, and I am going to be your presenter today. I am looking forward to sharing all that Happy Numbers has to offer. For those of you that are interested in starting fresh with a great program that I truly believe is going to impact both your students as well as your own instruction in the math classroom. I am Emily Levy, and I'm going to be your presenter. I have both a bachelor's degree and master's degree in education, as well as a gifted education endorsement. And I taught in the classroom for 8 years before stepping away and dedicating myself to all things professional development. And so I am happy to partner with Happy Numbers. I am such an advocate for programs that truly empower teachers to create those successful learning experiences for all students. And so I look forward to just sharing some insight with you, as well as answering any questions or comments that you may have. Our plan for today is that we're going to spend about 45 minutes going through all the ins and outs of Happy Numbers. So, whether you're just starting with us for the first time or you're here for a refresh, we're going to go through how Happy Numbers operates, everything from the login to the student experience, everything as well on the teacher account side of things, and just how to both administer some data reports and then also how to interpret those through a weekly checklist. So let's go ahead and get started. So, as we look at the year 2 mark of the initial wave of our pandemic, we know that amidst school shutdowns and just all of the trauma that COVID has caused our families and our students, we know that academic normalcy is still somewhat out of reach for many of our students. And so, at Happy Numbers, we want to address how we can help with these post pandemic difficulties, as well as just the normal difficulties that come with teaching all different types of students. And so, Happy Numbers is an award winning pre K through 5 digital math program. It serves as an independent math center where we're focused on providing that individualized instruction so that you can focus on teaching small groups and directing your attentions to those students who truly need you at that particular time. And as one of our case studies shows, students who make Happy Numbers a regular part of their math routine achieve, on average, 1.6 years of math growth in just one school year. And so you can look at one of our studies here in the results of 200 randomly selected second grade students. And you see that they averaged about 45 minutes a week using Happy Numbers. And surprisingly and excitingly, the students who made the biggest gains were the students who actually started the furthest behind. So they made 1.9 years worth of math growth. And even some of our students that were higher achievers still ended the year with 1.3 years of gain. And so that's why you will hear me say many times that you should work towards using Happy Numbers about 10 to 15 minutes per day, 4 to 5 times a week to achieve the best results. And so when we look at everything that Happy Numbers encompasses, it's a full year of digital curriculum for your pre-K through 5 students. It's driven by pedagogy, supported by technology. And so it provides differentiated independent learning using multiple representations and scaffolding to ensure conceptual understanding of math. And so to see how the learning happens in more detail, we're going to look at the student experience first. So it begins with a placement test to determine the individual level of instruction and the starting point in the Happy Numbers curriculum. And then after completing the placement test, each student is set on an individual learning pathway according to his or her level. Each student's individual pathway is going to involve different types of exercises that use concrete, pictorial, abstract model of education. So whenever your student is learning a new skill, it's going to be presented with a concrete representation, and that's to build a firm foundation of understanding. And then once they show mastery, Happy Numbers introduces pictorial representations. And then as they succeed, Happy Numbers scaffolds the instruction by reducing the number of hints until students can solve the problem independently. And what that does is it connects the model to the abstract equations. And so, starting from the entry point determined by the placement test, each student is going to work in their zone of proximal development all the time. Our scoring system, which I'll go into a little more detail later, ensures students spend just the right amount of time on any given exercise. And then that immediate feedback comes when a student makes a mistake. They're going to have the opportunity to correct their understanding independently thanks to the immediate feedback in the form of friendly tips or colorful hints. And then if the concept is new or complex, students are going to repeat it step by step with Dino, the mascot, for a more thorough review. We also want students on any level to build confidence through autonomy. So sometimes students are going to be able to choose their approach. So, for example, they have the option to give the answer or solve with Dino's step by step. Students who give the correct answer without any help, they are going to receive a little surprise at the end. So, any of your students with their differing levels of comfortability with math and confidence with math are going to feel successful. And we hear from students and teachers alike that they love Happy Numbers. In the midst of all this math growth, we don't want to forget about engagement. And so Happy Numbers finds the proper balance between enjoyment and education, which is going to allow students to become math lovers. So before I share my screen and we look at your teacher account and all its features, let me just quickly outline what a typical year of teaching with Happy Numbers looks like since we are at the beginning of a school year. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to receive a launch email with all the necessary instructions on how to log in and set up your account. And then after you log in, you'll either roster your class manually or automatically via Clever or ClassLink. And then you have your students take the placement test. And so the test results are measured in quantiles, which are available only to our premium users. And these scores are brought to you by the masterminds behind the Lexile framework for reading and are designed to assess students' mathematics readiness for kindergarten through grade 5 curriculum. And you, just as a teacher, I want you to know that you have control over your student's journey. If you need to reset the placement test because you find the results unsatisfactory or you know that a student maybe didn't take it seriously, you have the ability to also change student assignments after the placement test. I'll go into a little more detail later on with that. But after your students take the placement test, you'll want to reinforce the introduction of those weekly time and task targets. So the more opportunity that students have to engage with Happy Numbers, the greater math understanding they're going to demonstrate. And so we at Happy Numbers have a weekly time and task target associated with each student. And again, I'll go into a little more detail with that later. And then Happy Numbers provides you with optional assessments for mid and end of year. These allow you to measure student ability level, analyze math growth, and determine grade level readiness. If your students use Happy Numbers consistently, they'll close those learning gaps and significantly expand their knowledge of math by the end of the year, and then you get to celebrate. So how to log in as a teacher, there's two ways to get on the platform. One is through a Clever or ClassLink, and one is directly through happynumbers.com, which I refer to as a manual login. If you're a premium user, you're going to want to check with your building, whoever is in charge of your subscription, to find out how you guys are signing in. You can find that in the welcome email. Alternatively, you can also reach out to a supervisor or one of our support team members at cs@happynumbers.com. If you are opting to using Clever or ClassLink, then you will be able to log in directly by just clicking on that Dino icon on your library or your Launchpad. And then on the next slide, we'll see a quick demonstration on how to do that. So you see here that Clever or ClassLink is going to roster students to happy numbers automatically for you. So once class info is changed on the district or school end, the changes are saved automatically and synced to your teacher account. Please keep in mind that if you want to make changes to your class roster, so let's say you have a student that leaves your class, you are going to have to contact a Clever or ClassLink administrator at your building first. Just keep in mind Happy Numbers is only receiving rostering data, so we can't make any changes to it. If you don't want to use Clever or ClassLink, you can sign in directly via happynumbers.com. You'll just go to the website, click on I'm a teacher, and type in your school email address. And then once you fill out your credentials, and share details about your role and your district, then that way Happy Numbers inputs the data correctly. And then the last step is to build your class roster. So to do that, you'll click the Add the Class button and then choose the grade level you're teaching and give your class a name. And then you will enter your students' names and passwords. You can keep the automatically generated password or create your own. It's totally up to you. And then you can provide students their login credentials. You can copy or print out the student password sheet. There's a PDF that you can download to share. It's also sent to your email address once you're done with class setup. And then that's it. You're ready to go with your teacher account. So now that we've covered teacher login, let's just look at how your students would log in. So again, if you are using Clever or ClassLink, your students will hop on the same way by clicking Dino on their Clever or ClassLink account. If you choose to have them do the manual login, they'll go to happynumbers.com, click on I'm a student, and then use the credentials you've set up for them to log in. And it's pretty straightforward. And on their first login, they will be transferred to the Happy Numbers onboarding page, which will get them acquainted with the platform and our mascots and guide them through how to work with Happy Numbers, how to engage and drag various objects to complete the exercises, and so on. When it comes to student experience on Happy Numbers, we understand that keeping high levels of engagement is definitely paramount. To students, practice is actually going to look like a math game, and depending on their grade level, students are going to see different math worlds, as you can see below. So there are the platforms for pre-K through grade 2. And then grades 3 through 5 takes on a redesigned account with more of an immersive math galaxy. As I already mentioned, upon their first login, students in grades K through 5 are prompted to take a placement test. Pre-K students are going to skip the test. They'll just enter the curriculum from the start. The placement test is a vital part of students' year-long math journey with Dino. It's going to help spot any potential gaps in a student's knowledge, place the student at the appropriate starting point in the Happy Numbers curriculum. And so as you can see with the breakdown below, depending on the grade level your students are in, determines the number of questions on the placement test. Just keep in mind that the numbers that you see there, half of those questions are going to be standards-based and half are going to be adaptive. All in all, the test shouldn't take more than 30 to 35 minutes, and it also has a human voiceover so that no one misses the questions. So let's dive into the teacher account side of things. I am going to switch my screen. So the first thing I'm going to show you on this example account is a second grade roster. So after your registration is complete, you can always go to the roster tab, which you see here at the top. And you can add or delete students if you did the manual login. You'll see all of the information that you need next to each student. Again, if you use Clever or ClassLink, you're not going to have the option to make those changes. But the roster tab is also where you can change the language of instruction. So if you want to give your students the option between English or Spanish, that is going to be defaulted. If you want to change that, you'll click Change and then use the drop-down menu to select accordingly. If you don't have any English as a second language students, I would suggest just going ahead and selecting English only so that it prevents your students from changing that setting. Let's also look into your account settings and what additional features are available. So if you click on the My Account, you'll get a drop down, which will show you if you are a premium member, as well as take you to settings where you can change your password. You can also add a teacher assistant. This is fabulous if you share students with other teachers because it allows them access to student data without you having to give your personal credentials. The next thing I'm going to show you is the yearly dashboard. So when I click on the yearly dashboard tab, this is going to show you students that are logged in and have taken the placement test. And as a teacher, you'll see the placement test results here in your dashboard. You'll see that the yearly dashboard gives an overview of the progress your students have made with Happy Numbers. It's going to be split into two parts. So the upper diagram here is going to show you first the class distribution after taking the placement test at the beginning of the school year, and it's going to compare it to the distribution after a certain number of weeks. Here you can see this is towards the end of the year, so this is after 50 weeks of practice. And the overall progress section here in the middle is going to illustrate how much progress your students have made so that you get a feeling of the average progress in your class as a whole. And then finally, this section on the right is going to single out students who are ready for the next grade curriculum based on the content they've already mastered in Happy Numbers. That means they've finished their current grade curriculum on the platform. And this is also going to be based on your students' results on the optional end of year assessment, which you can set up in your teacher account about closer to March. Here's the lower section of the yearly dashboard. You'll see it's got the individual progress results and it's going to sort them based on the placement test, but you do have the option to sort it a myriad of ways. And so you can see that based on the placement test, students were placed below, on level, or above level, depending on how they did. And so we can see that the progress they've made in percentage of the assigned grade level curriculum. So 100% is going to mean a full year of current grade level curriculum and is equal to 1 year of growth. You're going to see the average weekly time spent. You're going to see their math journey starting from the placement test all the way up to their current practice point. So that's why you do see some different colored bars here, which I will explain. And the placement test results in quantiles, if you're a premium member, those are those numerical values that are associated with those different colored dots. And the quantiles for these assessments are then going to be compared to the results of students' performance on those assessments in the middle and the end of the year. So as you can see, students are going to fall into 4 categories. Students who partially meet grade level readiness, that's going to be a red dot. Students who are approaching grade level, that is going to be a pink dot. Students who are on grade level, that is going to be your light blue dot. And students who exceed grade level, that is going to be your dark blue dot, as you can see here with Julian and with Ashley. You'll be able to check the quantile results and the placement points in your yearly dashboard, which I will show you in more detail a little bit later. So as you can see, this report gives lots of information on student progress and growth, makes it perfect for sharing with your math coaches or your administrators. And also the great thing is that you can download it as a PDF, save it to your computer at any time. Just keep in mind, like I said earlier, if you start out your year with Happy Numbers and you don't agree with the placement point determined by the placement test, it is possible to reset the placement test results and have your students take it again. To do that, you are going to click on the assessment tab right here. You'll see the reset button next to the student's name. I don't have that option because it's been more than 2 weeks since my students took the test. So again, you really want to pay attention during the first 2 weeks of students journey in happy numbers, and that's ultimately the time where you make a decision as to whether or not you need to reset the placement test. And then if you do, your student will solve the test again upon the next login without losing the progress that they've already made. We don't recommend resetting the test results more than once. We trust that Happy Numbers is going to find that zone of proximal development for each student. The next tab I want to show you up here is the curriculum tab. It's one of my favorite parts about Happy Numbers. You have at your fingertips all of the pre-K through 5 tasks that are available to students. You can easily check how the curriculum is designed. You can click on any topic, which will break down all of the various modules and tasks. If I hover over or even click, I'm going to get an example of what students will be presented with. And this could even come in handy for you to present new concepts for your current grade level using familiar manipulatives and multiple representations with these tasks, either whole group or small group. Next, I'm going to show you the weekly dashboard. So just like we had the yearly dashboard, you also have a weekly dashboard. And so as a teacher, you can track students' weekly activity and target completion. The best place for that is going to be here in the weekly dashboard in this report section. As is the case with the yearly dashboard, the weekly dashboard is also split into 2 parts, which I will explain. The upper section summarizes students' weekly activity here on the left. With Happy Numbers, the activity diagram is going to show you how many students logged in and on which days of the week. And if you're looking into the weekly dashboard for the running week, you'll also be able to see how many students are currently online. The target completion diagram over here on the right side is going to show you how many students have completed their time and task targets. Additionally, you can see your class distribution by time and task target completion for the week. And if I zoom in on the weekly targets available, you'll see that there are 2. I have a time target and I have a task target. So just to briefly explain what they are, the time target is going to be the minimum number of minutes students are recommended to practice with Happy Numbers by each week. Default setting is going to be 45 minutes, but you do have the ability to change that for your entire class or individual students at any time. The weekly task target is the minimum set of tasks per week that students are expected to complete. You do not have the ability to adjust this. Just know that it's calculated automatically for each student based on the student's current assignment and their weekly time target. You can set up the weekly time target for the whole class or for each individual student. Like I said, you will just do that up here in the control panel, which you see right here, and that will allow you to adjust it for each student or for the class as a whole. Keep in mind that just increasing the weekly time target by just 10 more minutes per week can have a significant impact on student progress. On the other hand, you can also consider lowering the weekly time target for some of your high achievers. So if you have students who are already on or even above grade level, you have the power to go in and adjust and maybe expect them to do less time in the platform. They will still have the opportunity to earn rewards and work towards their targets for the week. But this allows you to decide and differentiate how much support and time your students are getting in the platform. And what's really great is that each student can see and track their progress towards these weekly targets in their account. Even though Happy Numbers is designed in a way that encourages students to collect rewards, keep in mind that as a teacher, it might be a good idea to offer some additional incentives. I know that some teachers already have reward systems set up in their classroom, so you can just find a way to either incorporate this into what you currently have going. I always loved doing a whole class target completion so that everybody felt like they were a part of the success. You'll see here that the lower section, as I've already referred to, hosts a table with each student's individual weekly results. And so students are going to be split into different ability groups based on their placement points. So first, you see I have my students that are placed below the current grade level, then students who are on grade level, and students who are above. And so each student has a breakdown of their daily and weekly time spent, and then what fraction of the time and task targets they've completed, the number of tasks solved, their weekly accuracy rate, and that's going to compare the number of successful attempts to solve a task to the total number of attempts. And then you'll see the next grade level readiness. This is a prediction based on how much time they spend in the platform and where they currently are. And then their current area of focus is here for you to review. Keep in mind, you may have noticed that I do have some student alerts, and that is going to be represented with this little caution red triangle. And so these are student intervention alerts. These alerts notify teachers about students who have appeared to be struggling with accuracy or time in one or more of the tasks. So if I click over here on the drop down for Mia, I'm going to see exactly where she's struggling. And notice that it's not that she's struggling with the entire module 4 for kindergarten. No, she's specifically struggling with topic E, solve addition equations to 5 based on a model. I can see that she's spent 16 minutes on this and she's just at 71%. So what I can do is I would make a note of that. The next time I have a chance to sit down with Mia, I'm actually going to pull up an exact task that she is struggling with, and I can go through this with her and we can find out where the misconception is. That's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of guesswork as a teacher. So I would suggest sitting down once a week to review your weekly report, and especially make sure to prioritize those students who have those struggle alerts. In the beginning of the year, it might also make sense to downgrade a student. So if you notice within the first 2 weeks that they are struggling with the majority of the content they're being presented, you have the ability to click on their name, and that is going to pull up their activity stream. And you can see everything that they've been assigned and what they have done thus far. And if within those first 2 weeks you feel that you need to downgrade a student, you can go to assignments, and then you will go to all topics. So right now this student is working through second grade. And if I feel like she's struggling with module 8 or any of the modules, I can go to all topics. I can go back to the first grade standard that builds upon that, and I can either select the entire module or individual topics. And the next time that student logs in, they will start with that module. Note that we only recommend doing this at the beginning of the year within those first 2 weeks. After that, happy numbers along with your student should, again, be able to find that zone of proximal development. All right. Moving on. So I just want to sum everything up with what we've discussed thus far by drawing your attention to a weekly checklist. You may want to jot these things down. If you want to see significant math growth, these are the things that I suggest that you do. You definitely want to make sure that students are using happy numbers on a weekly basis. And so with students that are using it 30 to 45 minutes a week, they're going to be able to show upwards of 1.6 years of math growth. And our scoring system is designed to ensure that those minutes of practice are translated into real progress. So I want to illustrate that. Each task on Happy Numbers covers a particular math concept. And within each task, students are going to complete several problems with increasing levels of difficulty. You'll notice that my score counter with the fruit at the top of the screen is going to represent that adaptive scoring system. So when a student gives a correct answer, a bead is going to move from the left to the right. And if a student makes a mistake, the program scaffolds to help correct their thinking, and a bead or a fruit is going to move back from the right to the left. So to advance to the next task, your student has to move all of the fruit or the beads from the left to the right. That ensures that each student completes the right number of tasks before they are ready for more complex concepts. And that's how curriculum progress with happy numbers translates into real math growth. And then, like I said, you're going to want to really utilize this weekly dashboard on a weekly basis. So visit your teacher account to check student activity, pay attention to those student interventions intervention alerts if you see one, and make sure to sit down with the students individually to solve the tasks that they're struggling with together. That's going to help you timely address student gaps and raise their confidence in math. And then finally, make sure to check that yearly dashboard, usually about every other month or so. This is, again, a good place to check student progress they've made thus far and to see your classroom as a whole and on being on track for the next grade level readiness. All right, I'm going to switch back to my screen again, and I'm going to show you the class activity stream. So the class activity stream is going to give you a rundown of the overall number of tasks that each student has solved, how much time they've spent, what their overall accuracy was, and how many tasks they've struggled with. You can use the bar up here at the top to decide how you want to view data, whether you want to see it daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. And you do have the option to download and print that report as needed. You also have the ability to click on any of these arrows and it will give you more detailed information about that particular student. Another great report that we have that you have access to is what we are calling the parent report. I'm going to show you an example of this because we often hear from teachers how important it is for them to engage with parents in the educational process. And so this individual student report is going to showcase details about a student's journey. And you can download the student report and share it with parents and stakeholders. In the report section, you'll just click on that tab and download it there. So the upper section here is going to show you how many tasks the student has completed, the amount of time they've spent in the platform, and their overall year of growth so far. And so as we scroll down, the report's going to unpack a student's progress starting from their placement point in the placement test all the way up to the current day. And you can see how much growth that student has showed and what their quantile growth was, provided that the student has then taken the mid and end of year assessment. And then you also have the most updated modules that student has completed and what they are currently working on. Another report I just want to briefly mention is the admin activation report. You do not have access to this report, so this is just an FYI for you, but I thought it would be a good idea to show you how admins can see your progress towards activation in their account. So this report is going to show teacher and student activation rates for the building. The student account is considered activated when they've completed the placement test, and so they, as admins, have the ability to see sign in and setup as well as the placement test when at least 70% of your rostered students have completed the placement test. So as a recap, I decided to pull up a quick to-do list for you. Here's what you need to do right now to make sure that your students start enjoying math growth on happy numbers as soon as possible. Keep in mind that if you are using Clever or ClassLink, the login is just slightly different than that of the manual login.